be it tomorrow, and really Mike was the best. And then one day it ended, and he'd had a great career, but he's not considered the best of all time, right? When I look at you, that's like the cautionary tale. This dude is supposed to be the best who ever did it. He's still young enough to get all that done, but he's got to stay on the, he's got to stay on the straight path. How do you respond to that, given your age, where you're perceived, and what you still have to accomplish?
That's a good question, Max. I really do feel like being the best ever is always going to be an opinion. I feel like if I was to retire today, I could go down as one of the best martial arts fighters in sports history. The way I respond to that, though, is just by just continuing to be on the path that I'm on, and that's just dominating fight after fight and trying to break as many records as I can. People ask me all the time, John, this is your 15th world title. What else do you really have to prove? And what I'm trying to prove is, what I'm trying to do is set records that are just going to be so far away from my competition that by the time I retire, there really won't be an argument of who the best is.
By the way, that one loss is a DQ in a fight that you were winning by far. That was not a competitive fight, and you got DQ'd for, downward strikes with the elbow, I think it was. But at any rate, really, you're looking at an undefeated fighter.
I'm interested, John, in knowing how you feel about...
Thanks, Max.
I'm interested in knowing how you feel about where you are now and what is it that you feel you have to prove. I know you just alluded to it, but I'm only asking that question in this regard. Particularly with the Conor McGregors of the world and the Megamedos of the world and others. Not only did they, Conor McGregor won his last fight, but not only are they winners, they're box office. And people look at you and it's like, okay, he is clearly one of the greatest ever. I want to know, do you feel any kind of pressure to be box office, to win in spectacular fashion because of the direction the UFC seems to be going in? Or are you just of the mindset, walk out there with a W no matter what?
Yeah, I look at Khabib and Conor and I see how internationally known they are, and it inspires me for sure to try to work on my branding a little bit more outside of fighting. But at the end of the day, for me, it's not about making the most money. It's not about being the most famous. It's about being the guy that people are going to talk about 50, 100 years from now. That's really what gets me out of the bed in the morning. And at the end of the day, no disrespect to Conor, because I love what he's doing for our sport. I don't think he's going to be in conversation when people are sitting around at a barbershop talking about the greatest martial artists in the world. And so I'm very aware of that. And so I think the box office stuff can come eventually. I'm only 32, but for the most part, those records, those records are very hard to get, and that's what really gets me going in the morning.
Yeah. As a fight fan, I love hearing you say that, but you mentioned Conor. If someone asked me, John, I'll straight up, who's the best pound for pound mixed martial artist you ever seen at this moment, and I know it's still early, I'd say Nurmagomedov, based on what I've seen so far. I think he's on a short list with you and Anderson Silva. You, Anderson Silva, Nurmagomedov. Molly will bring up GSP. I think eventually he got to that level, although the Matt Hughes fight early was a little... But what do you think of Khabib right now?
I think Khabib's an amazing fighter. I think he's done a great job representing the UFC. He's a great ambassador for our sport. But if you were to ask some MMA experts about myself and Khabib, I think most people would be able to tell just our resumes are completely different.
Yours is much deeper. Yeah.
I've fought so many world champions under my belt that I've defeated. Khabib, a lot of his victories are against a lot of people that are relatively unknown, and where I've been fighting legends since I was a young man.
There's no question.
There's
no question that your resume is deeper. I don't mean who's accomplished more. I'm talking about just the eyeball test.
The eyeball. What do you mean by that eyeball test?
Nurmagomedov, in a sport where it seemed early on that the one whose base is the ground game usually has an advantage versus the guy who's best known for striking, is the best example I can think of the guy whose ground game is ridiculous and then can also stand up.
Right. Yeah. His stand-up game is really not much to write home about. You know, I really don't want to insult my fellow martial artists. I don't want to insult these guys. You know, I'm happy for everyone. Like I said, some guys are more popular. Some guys make more money. It's always going to be kind of an opinion thing. But by the time I leave the sport, you know, I don't think there's going to be much of an argument.
Assuming, John, you live up. Assuming, John, assuming you live up to what you say you're going to do this weekend, and I have no reason to doubt you, there has been a lot of noise about you fighting at the heavyweight level. I want to know how much credence should we give to that, and more importantly, why do you want to do that if indeed that is what you want to do? Those are some big boys up at the heavyweight division. Why do you want to do that?
Yeah, there are some really big guys at the heavyweight division. You know, I'm very aware that, you know, fighting at heavyweight is a lot more dangerous. You get hit a lot harder. I think concussions are a lot more common. And, you know, I really like to protect my brain as best as I can. But I also, yeah, absolutely. But I also know that in order to put a lot of this pound for pound or who's the greatest conversation to rest, I'm going to have to maybe obtain a second belt in a different weight class. I think that'll really set me apart from a lot of the guys. So the move's inevitable. I'm only getting better as a professional. I think I'm at a place, I got the team around me now that could get me to that weight class in a safe and healthy way. And I'm excited for when it does happen. I see nothing but good things. I've been competing against my brothers my whole life, who are both bigger than me, both Super Bowl champions. And I feel like I'm ready for that lane. So it'll happen sooner or later. Right now, I just feel like so much good things are happening in the light heavyweight division, and they say if it's not broke, don't fix it. So I'm just going to take it one day at a time and mainly just focus on this Saturday night.
The best fight, it's always been that way in the UFC. Like those light heavyweight divisions are usually deep, and then sometimes they move up and grab that heavyweight or vice versa. But those light heavies seem to be where it's at.
John, before we let you go, I want to ask you.
I honestly...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I honestly feel like the light heavyweight division, even though we're not as big and we don't hit as hard, I feel like it is the supreme, most prestigious division to be able to conquer. I mean, a light heavyweight, you're looking at a lot of skill back, you know, like a lot of, you know, we're guys who weigh normally 220. You know, we're guys who can jump, we can spin, and we do a lot of really amazing things. Heavyweights, if you notice, a lot of them just stand and bang. They're like boxers. Where light heavyweight fighters, man, we are truly the most versatile while being strong and fast and athletic. It's the most dangerous weight class, in my opinion. Guys big enough to knock you out, but still more athletic enough and agile enough to do some really extraordinary things. It's a tough weight class. So in a way, me moving up to heavyweight could be easier for me because I'm just used to a much faster pace of fighting.
All right. John, had more I want to get to with you, but we got to let you go. You'll just have to come back after you win.
Handle your business.
Best of luck.
No more inactivity. No more inactivity. How many fights a year from now on, John?
I mean, at least 3 fights a year. That's my word.
All right, fair enough. We'll talk to you
Yes, sir.
soon, John.
Great to be on the show, guys.
Thank you
All right,
so much.
Great to have you.
When we come
This
back,
Saturday.
Dak is apparently not happy about his contract situation in Dallas, but is Jerry holding all the cards in Big D? That's coming up next.
Hey, lady, how's your date going?
Well, Luis Guzman, he didn't order by saying I'm gonna do the Caesar. So that's pretty good.
The Snickers hole is working.
It's time to get a whole new perspective on Ram trucks. Because to us, there are no small jobs, no little tasks. And when it comes to innovation, there are no modest ideas. You'll wonder why